Lunacy is not a form of personal or public degradation, for it is a level of the world of unknown politics. Everything's living in a conspired dream of control, a mass conformity, below the threshold of consciousness or apprehension, specifically involving or using stimuli that become effective subconsciously by repetition. The government knows this and uses it against you. We must be aware of the soundness of mind and judgment to see through the iron curtain in front of our eyes so we can question the truth. Whatever is discussed in this show tonight is your choice to believe what I tell you at your own risk. These are controversial topics that have become the great conspiracies of the world. You will hear information that is graphic and can be disturbing to people extremely sensitive to worldviews and religions. So please, listeners' discretion will be advised.
Welcome to Subliminal Sanity. I'm your host, Judas.
And I'm Crowley.
And it's good to have everybody here tonight. All right, so we'll do a small breakdown of last week's show. It was basically Impeach Obama. If you haven't heard the show, please do. It's show 18. And basically it was just all the things that Obama has done that, you know, conveys why he should be impeached. I mean, he's a liar, point blank, you know, bull face. And if Clinton's going to get thrown out for lying and betraying, you know, the people under oath, and then Nixon's going to do the same thing, then the same thing should happen to our president today, you know. And I think the fact that people are not feeling as though they have power or though they're not even standing up and doing anything brings to this show, which is a beautiful one, the corporations. And, yeah, I guess that'll be a good enough breakdown. You got anything to add to last week's show there, Crowley?
Well, what the pictures say on Facebook there, Nixon got impeached for wiretapping a hotel room, and Obama is got good morale invading everybody's cell phone.
Yeah.
I guess when you get a cell phone, it doesn't really matter anymore. You sacrifice that. You're like, well, you know, it's convenient. So
yeah, it's your pledge. It's like you're, you know, it's like it just kind of goes along like, you know, the lines of this show tonight. In fact, we're just going to move it right along. If you could, Danny, go ahead and play. We're going to run right into Truth and Socrates Poison for this week, and go ahead. We got some good quotes for you guys. If you could, Danny. Thanks.
Shortly before dying, Socrates spoke his last words to Crito, saying, "Crito, we owe a cock to Asclepius. Do pay it. Don't forget." Socrates understood that we leave this world with nothing, and what we leave behind goes to the gods or government, an oxymoron because they are the same. And that is the truth in Socrates' Poison.
And thank you, Vic, the voice firman, for making the clip of Truth of Socrates' Poison. Here we go. That brings me to the quotes. You never knew what you never knew before you knew it. And that was an unknown author. Excuse me. Are we a world of slaves living in the illusion of freedom, or are we a world of free men and women living in the illusion of slavery? Another unknown author. Strong minds will discuss ideas, and average minds discuss events. Weak minds discuss people. Socrates. The secret of change is to focus all your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. Sometimes you put up walls not to keep people out, but to see who cares enough to break them down. Also, Socrates. And then here we go, which is another good one that I feel will be a good quote for the show this week, which comes right out of Revelations, verse 15, 16. And they had the power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast shall be killed. And he causeth both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead, and that no man might buy or sell, and save he that had the mark or the name of the beast, for the number of his name is 666, or have the number of his name. And that brings me into the corporation. Okay, now to tonight's show, before I go on, I would like to send my thanks and credit to the ones where credit is due. Mark Hafner, Kurt Kallenbach, Russell Means, Pastor Anderson, the guy who got pulled over in one of the clips, Noam Chomsky, Steve Bates, creator of Consent of the Governed, the Freeman Movement. Please, that's a recommended viewing. I recommend everybody watch it. David Icke, Rob Page, Robert Arthur Menard, Paul Roberts, G. Edward Griffin, author of Jekyll Island, Bill Abram, and Michael from Bernencia, Rysel Posiski, and Roger Hayes. Thank you guys for doing the hard work that you do and spreading the word. Now, in show 6, we had discussed the mark of the beast. Is it a chip? Then in the Christian philosophy, the mark was something more of a metaphorical sense, something spiritual. And Enoch had gone over that in the Bible, the beast is a nation, a kingdom. Now, with that thought in mind, we will continue forward to a more recent time compared to the life of Jesus and his time here on earth. Let's bring it to a time of creation of this country and what had been done to create it into what it is today. In our show, 17, A Sense of Suppression, we had brought up how people don't actually teach you facts. They suppress information to control the moment of time today. Knowledge is power, right? Well, what if I told you right now at this moment, you're pretty weak? Because this clip I'm going to play first will be a missing piece of history that you may have been suppressed from, a piece of crucial information that sets the foundations of your future right from birth, that with the consent of your distant ancestors had already gave your freedom away right from birth to be a slave to this beast known as America. If you could please play clip 1, Denny, the corporation, that would be an honor.
I wasn't around in 1871, so I'm not deeply familiar with what the caller is referring to or the issue of whether or not we're a corporation.
So how did we get into this mess? When we were being formed as colonies, it took a lot of money to get all the supplies and ships and everything over here to form the 13 colonies. British bankers and the British Crown put up a lot of dough. Well, they were happy to put up the dough because as long as they owned the colonies, they knew that the resources of this over here would pay them back a very good return on their investment. But when we broke away from them, now they had no return on their investment, and they had a legitimate claim of debt against us. If we weren't going to be theirs anymore, we needed to repay them for what they had invested to get the colony started. It was a legitimate debt that we owed when we were formed. There are sentences in the Constitution that read that the debts under the Confederacy are continued under this Constitution. So the Constitution is also an agreement of debt to the British and to the French, because we asked the French to help us defeat the British, and they wanted to be paid back for their military expenditures. So we basically were broke when we became a country. And what we didn't know, or I didn't know, is that the bank note when other countries loan to a country is a 70-year note. So the 70-year note comes due when Lincoln is president. They don't have the money under Lincoln to pay off the note, so Lincoln doesn't want to give the public lands of the 13 colonies and the public lands of the Louisiana Purchase back to the Europeans in a foreclosure. He'd rather have that not happen on his watch. So he says to the European bankers, can we renegotiate the loan? And they said, well, we might do that, but we're going to want some upfront money, we're going to want better terms, and we're going to want more collateral. Under Lincoln, there were now 34 republics, many of which were not, part of the original 13, weren't part of the Louisiana Purchase. And he went to them because what the European bankers wanted was they wanted the public lands of all 34 republics to be held as collateral against the new national debt for the next 70 years. Well, when the southern states heard that they were being asked to do this in a war that they hadn't fought in for collateral to bankers, and they didn't like the terms, they basically said they're not going to do it, and they seceded. The real reason for the Civil War and the secession of the states was over the collateralizing of the public lands of those republics. Slavery might have been an issue and various other things. State rights was involved in it, but it was really over the collateralizing of the public lands, and they weren't going to do it.
They were done. They were done being pushed around by basically the international bankers. And they decided to leave the Union. That was, and they had every right to do that because they were sovereign individual nation states. They had the right to leave or break the contract because that's what the Constitution was. They call it a compact, but ultimately it was just a contract. Contract between the states. When the southern states walked out of Congress on March 27, 1861, the quorum to conduct business under the Constitution was lost. The quorum to conduct business under the Constitution was lost. The only votes that Congress could lawfully take under parliamentary law were those to set the time to reconvene, to take a vote to get a quorum, and to vote to adjourn and set a date, time, and place to reconvene in a later date, or a later time. But instead, Congress abandoned the House and the Senate without setting a date, and that's called sine die.
Now Lincoln has a problem. He no longer has a quorum to convene Congress. He can't renegotiate the loan because he has no power to pass any laws.
Congress actually ceased to exist. In fact, they no longer even had the ability to declare war. So in 1861, on March 27th, Congress disappeared. The lawful Congress disappeared. The lawful Congress disappeared. A little less than a month later, a man that was claiming to be president of the United States, Abraham Lincoln, issued Executive Order 1. Why do I say claiming to be president? Because he was no longer president. When the contract called the Constitution ceased to exist, so did the United States. The United States only existed because of that contract, because of the Constitution. So Abraham Lincoln issued Executive Order 1, and what he did was he established a martial rule, basically, over the federal territories. They found a way to actually take back control of all territories, or at least the federal territories. And that's what Abraham Lincoln did on April 15th. Now, everybody knows what April 15th is today. It's the day you guys all pay your taxes. 1863, Abraham Lincoln issues the Lieber Code, General Orders 100. What is that? Well, go home, Google it, and then you'll start reading about your government. The General Orders 100, the Lieber Code, is the government we're living under. Remember, the Constitution disappeared in 1861. But in 1863, they needed some way to govern the territories, the federal territories. And they did that through General Orders 100. Go home, look up the Lieber Code, that's L-E-I-B-E-R, the Lieber Code, or General Orders 100. Look it up, and you will see your government. You'll actually read it and go, wow, you know what, there's more things going on in here than I thought. It's a military government. Remember, the dictatorship was established in 1861 because there was no true Congress and there was no president. Also in 1863, the Supreme Court was abolished. Why would they need a Supreme Court when there was no Constitution? The Article 3 judiciary didn't exist anymore, so why should they pretend they need the Supreme Court? They reestablished a new Supreme Court in the District of Columbia that they controlled completely, but it's not the same Supreme Court. In 1865, I'd say the second 13th Amendment was created. Why? Because the first 13th Amendment was the amendment that didn't allow attorneys to hold office. You couldn't have a title of nobility with the original 13th Amendment. That was still part of the original organic Constitution. What did they replace it with? In 1865, the one that everybody talks about being so good. It was the freeing of the slaves. That's what they say. The 13th Amendment was not about freeing slaves. It was about creating a government where voluntary servitude was a possibility. The 13th Amendment was not about freeing slaves. It was about creating a government where voluntary servitude was a possibility. Where voluntary servitude was a possibility. In 1870, the 15th Amendment was passed. What amendment is that? That's the amendment to the legal right to vote. Legal right. Not lawful. Legal right to vote. What did they do? They made it so you had to register to vote to participate in their legal system. Their legal system. Did you need to register prior to that? No. You actually had a right to participate. Now you had to register. In fact, what did they say? Voting is a privilege. It is. It's not a right. It's a privilege in their world. And they've made it a privilege. And you know what? What can you do with a privilege that you can't do with a right? What can you do with a privilege that you can't do with a right? Take it away. Take it away. Also in 1870, something really important happened. The Department of Justice was created. Why? Because there was no Article III judiciary. They needed some semblance of law. But it says Department of Justice. Under what does the Department of Justice fall? The executive branch. It's a department under the executive branch. So who's in control of the legal system? The president, the dictator. Pretty sad stuff. That was in 1870. And ultimately, who's the top law enforcement officer in their system? The Attorney General? Attorney General, right? So it doesn't have anything to do with the Supreme Court or anything like that? No, it's the Attorney General. In 1871, then, a new private municipal corporation was created under the Organic Act. And this new private municipal corporation had a charter, a document of incorporation. And that was called the Constitution of the United States of America. It's a private corporate charter. This is not the Article 6 Constitution that says this Constitution, the one that was written in 1789. It was the Constitution that was assembled and put together in 1871. It was not this Constitution that they speak of in Article 6 of the Constitution, the original Constitution. It's a Constitution that resembles this Constitution. When they said this Constitution in Article 6, what are they saying? They're saying this moment in time, this Constitution. It's not a living document. It is very specific. The one they have now is living, because they can change it up and do whatever they want. And very soon they will. And very soon they will.
This funding shall commence in conjunction with the first attack on classified. Should event occur in urban areas? Jesus. A new Bill of Rights shall be drafted and approved by classified.
Wow. So we heard that as this nation had become a country, we were in debt to the European bankers and to the British as well. Well, we wanted to break away, so we had a debt to them, and we had agreed to pay it back. So the Confederate States wanted no part in this deal. As 70 years went by, we had 34 republics, and the southern states were not going to give up their lands because they had no part in the original Louisiana Purchase. So this is how the Civil War had actually started. Not slavery of Africans or Indians or the rights. It was ultimately the control over the states being handed over to the Europeans. So we went to war. Well, Lincoln was in office, and he did not want to hand the lands over to them, so he made a deal, and they wanted more money and more collateral and more land up front, and the Confederate States said no way. And so the South was like, F you, buddy, and that was that. And I'm sure you have heard that the old saying, the South will rise again. Well, if they can get their minds to grip the past just a little, they just might do that again, don't you think? Well, the Confederacy left the Union, and you were telling me about that too, what the Civil War was going on and about the Union and how they basically wanted to take over, and then...
Yeah, it had a lot more to do with the people uprising and stuff like that than anything else.
That's right. And so, take in mind, the quorum to conduct business under the Constitution was lost and went into sine die, which is without day. It's used when the court is adjourning without date specifying a date to reconvene. So that's pretty interesting stuff. And then, Executive Order 1, Abraham Lincoln was established. He established martial law over the federal territories, and that's probably why he probably wanted to have the war with the Union and make all of them federal territories. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, isn't there, don't they have all these federal places? What are the places that have all the arms? You know what I'm talking about. The armories. Ain't those federal buildings?
Oh, the post office is supposed to be a federal building.
There you go, right off the bat. So it's all federal territory now because, eventually the South gave in. And then so 1863 issued General Orders 100, the Lever Code, and this is the martial military government that we actually have today. And then the dictatorship was established in 1861, because there was no president, no Congress, and Supreme Courts in District of Columbia. And then they changed the 13th Amendment, was not created to free the slaves. It was about creating a government where voluntary slavery was a possibility. And then in 1870, the 15th Amendment, which was legal right to vote. So what we're talking about here is your rights. We're saying that basically you don't have rights, you only have privileges. You're like a little child, okay? You can only go out and be home at this certain time. If you don't come home at this certain time, then you can't leave at all. Sounds pretty scary. And then, so then basically another thing that was pretty interesting was we have two constitutions, not one. And the one we act on today is the living constitution under these acts and laws, not the original one created when our founders created this country. So as you can see, we have all been lied to and misinformed right from the beginning, if anybody is listening that didn't already know this information. And this is why we have a bunch of people asleep today, why a bunch of people kind of don't care, because they don't understand the history behind their land today to take pride in it and not want to give it up, and we're like blindly handing it over. It's like, whatever, Well, how does this affect you? And now, now that we know we have all this history that has been ignored, how does this affect you as a human being today? And how does this stipulate and coordinate your life today? This is where we come into a state of mental enlightenment, because this is the part where I show you how by you and your views of what may be in your control, basically of what may be in your control, and how powerless you really are. In the description of the show, I had said we would disclose how the people are the ones to blame for basically the outcomes of our nation today, our laws, our government growth, and our world as we know it in America. Who would we put in control and who we put in charge is us, and we can actually put a stop to it if we wanted to. And in this clip, you're going to hear the information that may be crippling to what you think and what you know today, and this might be actually what puts the power back where it belongs, in the hands of the people. Now, fear and weakness go hand in hand, and this is a weapon against you. So don't be afraid to be rational, don't be afraid, be rational. You know what I'm saying? It's time to wake up and see for yourself. You are either the future of prosperity or our obscurity. Because in this sense of which you're going to hear, it's going to really, I believe, enlighten you quite a bit. Denny, if you can go ahead and play clip 2, corporations, and show people why we are in charge once again.
We are a nation that has a government, not the other way around. And this makes us special among the nations of the earth. Our government has no power except that granted it by the people. It is time to check and reverse the growth of government, which shows signs of having grown beyond the consent of the governed.
The doctrine of natural rights was most prominently laid out by Thomas Jefferson in the Declaration of Independence right at the beginning of the document. We hold these truths to be self-evident, he wrote. but all men are created equal and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, but among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is probably the most famous phrase in the English language, but the words that immediately follow may be the most important. Here's what it says. To secure these rights. Governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed.
You see, Indian people, we don't have any rights, any constitutional protection on the reservation whatsoever. No freedom of speech, no privacy. Well, you Americans are in the same boat. Be that as it may, what has happened after they economically forced us into these prisoner war camps by destroying our food supply and our right of passage in our own land.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Your rental contract.
Thank you.
Where y'all headed to?
That's my business.
Do what?
That's my business.
I'm just trying to get some information because he's not giving me any information.
I'm not going to give you any information either. I mean, what do you need that kind of information for?
Just saying where you're going. Make sure there's no criminal activity.
So I'm guilty until I prove that I'm innocent?
I say you're guilty of anything.
Well, you're saying that I have to prove...
Ask you a question.
Well, wait a minute. You're trying to look for crime?
We don't know who's hauling mass destruction bombs. We don't know who's hauling a dead body. That's our job out here.
A mass destruction bomb? We're in a Kia.
Doesn't matter.
So it's your job to randomly pull people over and search and inspect them?
I didn't say I was searching you. I just asked you a question.
And I have the right not to answer. The Fifth Amendment, it's the Bill of Rights, the Constitution. I mean, I'm still in America, right?
Yes,
Did we cross any borders or anything? Or we're still in the United States, aren't we? So this is a free country. That means we don't have police going around stopping us and trying to figure out what we're doing. In a free country, police don't stop us and just try to figure out what we're doing and where we're going, and we have to prove that we're legit and that we're not criminals, okay? I was born here, and so I don't owe you any answer to any question. You don't own me. I'm not your slave, okay?
Where is this attitude coming from?
It's an attitude coming from getting pulled over, not getting any explanation of why. Being told that I might have a weapon of mass destruction, you're talking like a crazy person. You're a crazy person. A weapon of mass destruction in a Kia. What are you talking about? You're a crazy person. What kind of a weapon of mass destruction?
That's our job out here is to figure out...
Your job is to find weapons of mass destruction in Kias? That's not your job.
It doesn't matter what it's in, sir.
When did you get the job of searching for weapons of mass destruction? When did that become your job?
For anything illegal, sir.
Your job.
For anything illegal, sir.
Your job.
For anything illegal, sir.
Okay, well, you're not going to search. You're not going to search me without a warrant. I'll tell you that right now. And I'm not going to answer any questions here without an attorney present. I'll tell you that as well.
Okay, that's fine with me.
All right.
That's fine with me.
Because this is America.
Yes, it is.
All right.
And it's our job to find out and make sure people's not doing anything.
Well, I don't agree with that. I don't agree that that's your job. It's your job to enforce the law, not to go out looking. You're not enforcing any law. You're out looking for phantoms. You're out looking for crime with innocent people who are just driving down the road.
But we don't know who's innocent and who isn't.
Oh, okay, so you better just assume everybody's guilty then, right? And just search everybody and talk to everybody.
Don't say anything about searching.
Yeah, you just said that you're searching. Your job.
For anything illegal, sir.
Your job.
For anything illegal, sir. I didn't.
Well, this whole thing's being video recorded, so all I have to do is rewind it, and you said you're searching. So, your job.
For anything illegal, sir. All we're looking is for people doing something illegal. That's our job. Not saying you are.
Well, I don't agree with that. I don't agree that that's your job. If you think that's your job, that shows how much you understand about America. If you think it's your job to go out and just look for crime among innocent people, then you're wrong.
That's the job of the
It's your job to respond to crime when it happens, not to go out searching for problems. I know our country's turning into a police state. I know there's all these checkpoints and...
I don't know about no checkpoints.
Oh, well, I sure know about checkpoints because we've been through checkpoints and they ask us a bunch of questions. All throughout Arizona and South Texas.
No, but
it's operated by the Border Patrol, but it's not at the border.
I think that's illegal alien or smuggling is what they're looking for.
Either
illegal people in the United States.
Hey, I don't care what they're looking for. It violates my rights as an American. The Nazis had checkpoints too. You know that? You had to show your papers.
By destroying our food supply and our right of passage in our own land, they confined us to these, and then they began practicing and perfecting their colonial tactics. What has happened is now America, because of the irresponsibility of your forebears and the irresponsibility of yourselves, you are now on one huge Indian reservation. You are now on one huge Indian reservation. You know, the American people for too long have been irresponsible, free people.
You are an old man who thinks in terms of nations and peoples. There are no nations. There are no peoples. There are no Russians. There are no Arabs. There are no third worlds. There is no West. There is only one holistic system of systems. One vast and immane, interwoven, interacting, multivariate, multinational dominion of dollars. It is the international system of currency which determines the totality of life on this planet. That is the natural order of things today.
Okay.
You get up on your little 21-inch screen and howl about America and democracy. There is no America. There is no democracy. There is no democracy. There is no America. We no longer live in a world of nations and ideologies. The world is a college of corporations, inexorably determined by the immutable bylaws of business. The world is a business. It has been since man crawled out of the slime. And our children will live, Mr. Beale, to see that perfect world in which there's no war or famine, oppression or brutality. One vast and ecumenical holding for whom all men will work to serve a common profit, in which all men will hold a share of stock, all necessities provided, anxieties tranquilized,
You're our friend.
amused.
Well, the title is actually borrowed from a book by Walter Lippmann, written back around 1921, in which he described what he called the manufacture of consent as a revolution in the practice of democracy. What it amounts to is a technique of control. And he said this was useful and necessary because the common interests, the general concerns of all people, elude the public. The public just isn't up to dealing with them, and they have to be the domain of what he called a specialized class. Notice that that's the opposite of the standard view about democracy.
What we have to look at is the President is the Chief Executive Officer of this corporation called the United States of America.
What did you just say?
The President is the Chief Executive Officer of this corporation called the United States of America.
What is a corporation? It is one form of business ownership.
It's a group of individuals working together to serve a variety of objectives, the principal one of which is earning large, growing, sustained, legal returns for the people who own the business.
In the United States of America, up until around the mid to late 1800s, in order to create a company or corporation, you would have to go through the arduous process of earning a charter from a particular state, which was both limited in duration and function, needing to be renewed, but also subject to rules, regulations, and heavy taxes.
And what happens is the corporations come into court, and corporation lawyers are very clever, and they say, oh, you can't deprive a person of life, liberty, or property. We are a person. A corporation is a person.
Governor General's Act. You go to a Canadian government website and you can actually look up the act. Okay, you look up the Governor General's Act, and in there, Clause 1 or Clause 2 says the Governor General of Canada or other Chief Executive Officer, CEO. CEOs are for companies or administrator carrying on the government of Canada on behalf and in the name of the sovereign by whatever title designated is a corporation sole. Okay, a corporation sole is a corporation except that there's only one individual that holds that title or owns that corporation.
What we have to look at is the President is the Chief Executive Officer of this corporation called the United States of America.
Corporation sole actually are used all over the place. The Pope, the office of the Pope is a corporation sole. The office of the King is a corporation sole. The Governor General, Lieutenant Governors, the Catholic Church, all of their bishops and archbishops and cardinals, they all hold corporation soles.
Yes, sir. I was wondering if you were aware of the Act of 1871.
I'm not aware of any particular act in 1871. Is there something that you're referring to in particular?
With no constitutional authority to do so, Congress created a separate form of government for the District of Columbia. It took our organic constitution and replaced it with a corporate constitution. So America is not even a country; it's a corporation, and that's what this healthcare is about. Control of our schools, our food, everything, every control aspect of our life is under this. And people need to wake up. This is not a bill for the people. This is not even a country, and people need to look into this. This is a corporation. The United States is a corporation, and it's all for the corporations.
Hitler has often protested that his plans for conquest do not extend across the Atlantic Ocean, but his submarines and raiders prove otherwise. And so was the entire design of his new world order. For example, I have in my possession a secret map made in Germany by Hitler's government, by the planners of the new world order.
It always comes as a shock when people realize that some of the greatest mass murderers of history and the greatest tyrants of history were actually supported and funded by very wealthy financiers and forces in the United States and in Great Britain. They sometimes go very closely hand in hand.
Hitler had a dream that his big business should dominate the world. He called his dream the New Order. Foreign big business was weakened during the war, and today American big business is the strongest, and they have a dream to dominate the world.
Soon every American will be required to register their biological property in a national system designed to keep track of the people, and that will operate under the ancient system of pledging. By such methodology, we can compel people to submit to our agenda, which will affect our security as a chargeback for our fiat paper currency. Every American will be forced to register or suffer being unable to work and earn a living. They will be our chattel, and we will hold their security interest over them forever by operation of the law merchant under the scheme of secured transactions. Americans, by unknowingly or unwittingly delivering the bill of ladings to us, will be rendered bankrupt and insolvent, forever to remain economic slaves through taxation, secured by their own pledges. They will be stripped of their rights and given a commercial value designed to make us a profit, and they will be none the wiser. For not one man in a million could ever figure out our plans, and if by accident one or two should figure it out, we have in our arsenal plausible deniability. After all, this is the only logical way to fund government, by floating liens and debt to the registrants in the form of benefits and privileges. This will inevitably reap to us huge profits beyond our wildest expectations, and leave every American a contributor to this fraud, which we will call social insurance. Without realizing it, every American will insure us for any loss we may incur, and in this manner, every American will unknowingly be our servant, however begrudgingly. The people will become helpless and without any hope for their redemption, and we will employ the high office of the President of our dummy corporation to foment this plot against America.
If I was to ask you, how do you define person, what would the normal definition in our community be for that word, human being? And if we take a look at the dictionary, it says a human being regarded as an individual. That's what we would normally view the word person to be. In law, okay, now we're using their words. Whenever you're dealing with corporations and the government and all that kind of stuff, person means an individual or incorporated group having certain legal rights and responsibilities. Not a human being regarded as an individual. Not a human being regarded as an individual, but as an individual or corporation. So they actually said, compare artificial person and natural person. So I did. So I looked it up and I compared them. Artificial person, a legal entity, not a human being. Natural person. A natural person is a human being that has the capacity for rights and duty. That has the capacity for rights and duty.
We, as sovereign human beings, are a higher life form than a corporation. In order for them to control us, they had to have parity.
the heart of the grand deception, keeping us mired in the whirl of money, is keeping from us all the fact that almost every country operates with the artificial and natural person merged together as one. That means humans are being given the rights of corporations, i.e., no human rights, and artificial corporate persons are being given the rights and privileges of natural persons, more and more so. And the ones aware of this are profiting from it in a multitude of ways.
What I uncovered was that when a person is registered from birth, it's at that point in time that they are actually being created, or that a legal person is being created and associated with them. And it's kind of like it's at that point where you join a club, and when you join this club, you're given, say, a membership card. The card itself would be your person, as opposed to the human being.
So, I mean, pretty crazy stuff there, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, basically you're just a number. You know what I mean?
I got the number. It's my Social Security card.
Yeah, we're all sinners, you know. We all have the social insurance
security.
cards.
Socialism,
yeah, like,
security.
You know, I mean, that's some crazy stuff, you know. So basically that means that you have to give your consent. I never agreed to this shit. Hell, I didn't even know that I had to consent until now. Sounds like manipulation to me, you know. And we are a nation that is a government. Basically, we have a government, not the other way around, you know. So it's basically consent of the governed. And when you start looking at the fundamentals of it, it's like the Native Americans and Chinese Americans have been rounded up like slaves and killed, sacrificed. All this stuff sounds familiar to me. Didn't it sound familiar to you?
Yeah. Sounds
that
like
guy,
another show we did.
Well, no, what I'm talking about is like our country practicing these tactics of martial law and rounding up people and fully controlling people that go against the grain, you know, of a certain particular society. See, you know, what you're hearing now is like people that know one way and have a particular way of life, and you don't want no distractions from the way of life that they're trying to perform and the society they're trying to create. So what they do is they snuff out these people and enforce and enrule their new society. And within decades, you know, 30, 40 years that go by, new kids are born right in the same row, and therefore these kids don't know nothing of the old world. In fact, as they grow, they tend to want to ignore the old world and create their own. You know, it's a form of rebellion. And that's like a natural born-given right, too, in its own sense.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And Indians, they economically deprive them by polluting their water supplies and food sources and then cut off their ways of passage and their own lands. And then we got Pastor Anderson getting pulled over by this cop who's enforcing the rules of this legalese society. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's pretty unreal stuff. I mean, what do you think of this?
Now it's turning into FEMA camp internments and stuff. And they said I saw that Mark Dice stuff. He was talking about one right on what's the name of that river? Oh man,
I don't know the river. You should have sent me the link. I would have memorized it.
You're the one that gave me the link.
Oh, it was a long time ago. Are you talking about the petitions?
No, the FEMA camp. They're already talking about on the Potomac.
Oh, you're talking about now how they're already getting ready to actually employ them and get them ready.
Yeah, they already got people filling them up and stuff. I guess they're already talking about it. Man, that's crazy.
I'd say it's people like you and me. You know?
Well, you know, they said that drones were a myth.
It was a myth. The RFID chips were a myth.
It was a conspiracy.
It was a conspiracy.
Yeah.
See, this show, we try to bring fact and conspiracy to the table so that people who are listening will have well-rounded view of what really is going on.
Well, I mean, you can't just take everything and go, yeah, that's fact. I mean, you got to take it with a grain of salt. I mean, it's not all real, but some of it is.
I know, right?
And that's the crazy part. I mean, obviously, we all know that
I think we got our DIY artist on the line. Would you? Yeah, Denny, is D.P. on?
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. How are you?
Not too bad, man. It's good to talk to you. I know you're like super busy all the time.
Yeah, you know it, man. It's good to talk to you.
Heck yeah. So for this week's Exposing DIY Artists is D.P., a.k.a. Danny Perez. Is it okay if I say your name?
Sure, man. As long as you don't tell my address.
Or your insurance card, right?
Right,
basically, how I found him was one of my brothers who had actually taken his own life last year. He was posting these songs to his wall. And I was like, cool, man, I'll just like the vids on YouTube and listen to them later. And when he ended up taking his life, you know, I'm not going to lie, I never got around to checking out these things, and I was busy working all the time. I didn't get the moment to stop and just let something for a moment consume me. Well, September 5th, 2013, he took his own life, Trevor Camden, and sitting back thinking about him now, music is what actually carried me through this. And I was looking through my YouTube vids on the watch laters and likes, and there he was. So I gave him a listen thinking about Trevor, and I was blown away. And I was like, dude, is this guy even famous? You know what I mean? And I saw his views, and, you know, there was a great amount of views, but not as many as I almost expected there to be. You know, I was like, dude, this guy's got to get out there. And, you know, we're all about exposure. And he's got awesome songs. I'm not even lying. And basically, I gave it a listen. I was blown away. So I would like to introduce you guys Danny Perez. All right, man. Go ahead and introduce yourself, man. You know, like, tell us a little bit about yourself. When I heard your tunes, you know, you got so much going on music-wise, and with your lyrical intricacy, there is so much in one song, it makes you wonder, where have you been, bro? You know, it sounds like you've seen every side of the pyramid, even at the top. It still can feel like the bottom, you know? So,
yeah, man. Well,
you know, why don't you go, yeah.
Thanks for the solid intro, man. I hope I live up to the expectations. But I'm happy to be on the show, man. As far as musically, yeah, I've been releasing music independently, completely independently for about 5 or 6 years seriously now. And I think most of the stuff that you heard that your buddy was listening to was off a record that I released back in 2009 called Bar Tab Blues. But I actually just released a new record last year, the end of last year, called While We're Still Young. And that's all over the internet and all that stuff. So that's the one to check out for sure.
Yeah, that was awesome, and I actually listened to it a lot. And bringing me down, I might as well go right into that part. When I heard it, I got this vibe right away that you're trying to create a more versatile sound, progressing the developments of your ability with your music. And not just one genre and not just one-way roads here, but you have a wonderful collage of a nice country hip-hop vibe. And to me, it's got like this original spin on it, too. Like you're inventing a whole new sound. Would you agree to something like that? Like, because I mean, that's kind of what I got. It was like, you know, you're trying to be a versatile musician, like many of the musicians in the past.
Sure. You know, as far as creating a new sound, I mean, I'm a pretty modest guy when it comes to it, and I don't toot my own horn very often. But I play music, and I feel one of the things that sets me apart as an MC, hopefully, is that I rap, and that's originally how I started making music was rapping as far as putting out music on my own. But before that, I played instruments since I was a kid, man. Since I was like 6 years old, I've been playing piano, guitar. So I come from a very musical background, and everything you'll hear as far as my stuff is me playing 90% of the stuff. And I don't know, I don't set out on a path.
You got singing, though. You got two lines there. You got singing and rapping, and you play all these instruments. I saw your videos. You're rocking out the piano. And one of my favorite songs, which I'm not going to play right now tonight, I wanted to, but seeing, I'm going to press your new album and the new stuff that you got going on, I picked Big Time. Is that cool?
Hell yeah.
I love that song, man. I thought it was awesome. Kind of goes with my life. But anywho, so looking at the range and versatility of your music, you got the guitar in there, you're singing, you're rapping, you're all over the place with many basically scenarios of reality. Would you say that all the stuff that you write is actually what you've gone through in your life and kind of a reflection of that, or is this just more of your imagination and feeling of what is going on in the world and just kind of putting it together?
It's a little of both. A lot of it comes from personal experiences, obviously, but then I'm also, I consider myself a songwriter first and a rapper second, and I really take a songwriting perspective when it comes to hip-hop music, and I think that's fresh, and, that's probably why when people listen to the stuff, they say, wow, it sounds fresh. Well, I'm trying to write songs first, and then I rap also. But, some of the stories are stories of my friends, and some of the stories are stories of mine, and some of the stories are a little bit fictionalized. But that's kind of how creativity rolls. You draw from your own inspiration, and then you just kind of go from there.
Man, that's awesome. You're absolutely right, because I write myself, and I look at where I've been, looking around me, and then kind of taking myself in an aerial perspective and thinking about what's going on in the world and try to, basically feel what everybody would like to hear at the moment, what they need to hear to kind of counsel them through, I don't know. Basically, when I hear that song, I Ain't Coming Home, man, why don't you go ahead and tell me about that song? Because that's one of my personal faves, and as well as Streetlights, too. Just go ahead and give me a description of I Ain't Coming Home. Is this something that you've been through?
Yeah, definitely I Ain't Coming Home comes from personal experience. I wrote that after spending my first good bit of time on the road on tour. And it's just kind of a collage of memories and experiences I went through on the road during that time in my life, and just kind of combining them all into one song about wanderlust and wanting to go and see the world and leave home behind. And so that one's definitely very personal. Streetlights, too, is also written in sort of a collage form in the sense that that one's just kind of celebrating kind of being in love with the nightlife and everything that it brings, good and bad.
Yeah. Man, I got a lot from both of those songs. What did you tell us about Big Time? Because that's a pretty, it sounds like, I always look at 70% of a joke is, truth, and the other part is just basically, fluff. But, you have to remember there's always truth in there, and that's what kind of makes it funny. So when you hear the song Big Time, why don't you tell us about that? That's what kind of brings me to where I said, an individual that's seen both sides of the pyramid, even when you're on top, you still could even feel like you're at the bottom.
Sure. It's funny you mentioned that song. Big Time is about people's perception of things and fame and artistry and where people are at in their careers, and me talking about myself specifically, but you could relate to a number of things in our industry.
Yeah, I understand.
But I wanted to shoot a music video for that where, at the beginning it's all big and flashy, kind of like where you get the image part of it, where kind of the image that a lot of musicians or rappers will portray, and it's kind of everything's going well, the cars are all rented and the jewels are all rented, and then kind of pull back the curtain there and then actually show what this person's life is really like, because as an independent artist or struggling artist, sometimes people think, oh, you're on tour, you're doing this, you're releasing records, you've been to California, you've been across the country, you must be doing really well. What they don't see the other side of things, and it's tricky also because you have to kind of in one sense be marketable and sell an image of success, but on the other end, there's a real story behind it, and that sometimes it's hard to find money to eat,
No, absolutely, bro. That's why it's called The Starving Musician.
Yeah.
But, man, I tell you what, I'm, like, highly influenced. I think it's great tunes. I think if anybody breaks down their walls, if you're going through a particular time in your life of where, you know, what you had set in stone didn't really go the way you wanted to, and you kind of feel like, you know, you're just kind of at a crossroads in life, you know, certain things do carry you forward. And, you know, when I listened to this stuff, I was like, man, you know, these guys really, you know, opened me up to just life in general. Yeah, it gets hard, man. Some people, you know, they can't take it, and some people, they move forward and try to use what they had in them to keep going as well of what you remember, you know. And so, you know, it's just great to be able to have you here and give you a story and give us a little mere, you know, perspective of D.P., man. It's great to finally talk to you, too, you know, online and shit, you know.
That's awesome. Man, you know, thanks again for having me. And are we going to play a song, or what do we got lined up?
Oh, absolutely, man. I just wanted to go ahead and get your websites out there real quick if anybody wanted to go ahead and check them out after the song. And I'll also give them out later, but it's www.officialdp.com, and his manager is Kervinsky, Fly South Music Group, and then he's also has MOR at flysouthmusic.com, and also avidmar@nights.ucf.edu, and that's how you can go ahead and get a hold of them. And like I said, it's a pleasure to get you guys on here. And this song that I have for you guys tonight is called Street Lights. It gives you a really good dynamic of his vocals. It's calm, and, you know, I believe that it kind of goes along with what we got going on here tonight. Yeah, I felt like it did. And like you said, it's all about perspective. So, again, it's a joy. Denny, why don't you go ahead and kick it off for us, brother? And this song is called Street Lights by D.P.
Yeah, man. Thanks again and for having me. This is Street Lights off the Bar Tab Blues. Look me up online. Look up with me. Thanks for having me, man.
No problem, brother. I'll keep in touch, too.
God damn. Yeah. She said her heart was broken too, and Haley smiling on her broken tooth. She said her boyfriend gave it. He ain't mean it, he was drunk when he breaks it. I ain't fucking, I'm just touching the naked. I'm on something, I'm wasted. I'm just feeling the high. Times like these, like I'm feeling to die. It's like I'm willing to die, just to see what it's like. Just to feel I finally did something real with my life. But I'm just feeling the night, it's mine. She like the way he touched it this time. Just a little too rough, but when she cries, she shines. And see, she trying to be mine. I'm like, baby, can you save me? I'm just dying inside. And she gets high off the secondhand smoke. I was learning to fly, she was learning to cope. And the whiskey make the night seem risky. And I can smell the death in her chest on her breath when she kissed me. And at the party talking who's coming with me. At the party looking stupid and tipsy. All the dealers look shifty. They got devilish eyes unlike me, the devil in the sky. I don't wanna go to sleep, no. Said I got so much more to feel. It's another Saturday night and I feel alright. Gonna find my God here in these street lights. Don't wanna go to sleep, no. But I got so much more to feel. It's another Saturday night and I feel alright. Gonna find my God here in these street lights. I'm like, the house party like a house of worship. Everybody speaking in tongues, reciting them verses. They saw the father at the bottom of a Johnny Walker. Haley said she's gonna kill someone. Somebody stop her, but nobody stops her. Somebody calls the cops. The party stops, the congregation in the parking lot. The flashing lights make me feel I got the passion of Christ. Make her feel she got rhythm, so I'm just grabbing her tight, so she don't fall off and smash up the whole night. She table dancing, I'm asking if she's alright. We one night stands and one night only. We just come together in masses for the lonely. We all using it some way, saving up some time for somehow for growing up someday, and maybe Sunday. But tonight we just passing around collecting plates, throwing on something. Haley's going home, but she don't even know his name, and he don't look a thing like Jesus. She say she'll be alright. I'm caught up in all night. I'm looking at car lights like starlight. It's gotta be God. I don't wanna go to sleep, no. Said I got so much more to feel. It's another Saturday night and I feel alright. Gonna find my God here in these street lights. Don't wanna go to sleep, no. Said I got so much more to feel. It's another Saturday night and and I feel alright. Gonna find my God in these street lights of mine. Oh, 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 oh. Haley's falling, I'm sober enough to hold her up. We take communion, we just pass around that solo cup. Everybody passing out and throwing up. And she just look like she's falling out of ass gas, is holding up. We speeding head first in the ditches, yeah. We get naked now, she wanna take pictures. And suddenly them girls that make their money undercovers wanna be lovers, and nice chicks wanna be bitches. And I'm just hanging out the sunroof, arms outstretched, trying to take flight and fly into the late night and disappear somewhere amongst the stars. That's where I never felt so close to God. I found my face in Saturday night war stories. We never talk about them Sunday mornings. See them Sunday mornings, they like blasphemy. And tell the usher go and pour another glass for me. I'm like, found my face in Saturday night war stories. We never talk about them Sunday mornings. See them Sunday mornings, they like blasphemy. To tell the usher go and pour another glass for me. I don't wanna go to sleep, no. Said I got so much more to see, yo. It's another Saturday night and I feel alright. Gonna find my God here in these street lights. Don't wanna go to sleep, no. I got so much more to do. It's another Saturday night and I feel alright. Gonna find my God here in these street lights of mine. Oh, 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 oh.
Man, that was some potent stuff right there. Sunday mornings are like blasphemy. Go ahead and pour another glass for me.
Yeah.
I tell you, man. You guys still there? Crowley?
Yeah, I'm still here, bud.
Right on, brother. You doing all right?
Yeah.
All right, man. Hey, we got a great clip going on for pressing the issue. You ready to hear some crooked politics?
I'm ready to hear
Kevin
what you got
Blanch
to
with
give.
some wonderful updates on Fukushima. Huh?
Yeah, Kevin Blanch has got his own radio show now.
Yep, Post Ignorance. I heard it this morning. It was awesome. I'm telling you, you guys got to listen to it. You know, the guy's like all about the spirit and soul and getting in there right to the core of, you know, personability, you know, and conveying factual knowledge.
Is that on the same network as Nuclear Hot Seat?
It's on UCY.TV every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific West Coast time and 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you guys can go ahead and check them out. That's UCY.TV. And don't forget,
so
D.P.
you can, non-stop brainwashing. We will fix the problem.
No, non-stop enlightenment. You guys have been
That's right.
brainwashed your whole life, you know, if you think about it.
Depends
You
on how you
know?
look at it, right?
Well, it depends on how you look at it, right? Hey, I did see in that movie, too, that one thing that's not in these clips is that basically there's a 3% of the people that make it work. And the rest of the people can keep mowing their lawns and doing what they got to do. But then you got your other, you know, it takes about 3 to 4% of people, little small group of people to make a difference. But we're going to go ahead and go right into pressing the issue because I'm sure Kevin's calling in. And Denny, if you can go ahead and play pressing the issue real quick, and we'll keep in touch with some crooked politics.
Pressing the issue.
We've learned that there is a criminal investigation going on, and sources tell CNN that a federal grand jury is handing out subpoenas An independent water test done at CNN's request still found trace amounts of the chemical in tap water, but it's within the CDC's safety limits. However, those have been disputed. Quickly arrested after shots rang out at a government building in Vancouver, Washington. A Veterans Affairs employee was shot and is now in the hospital. One worker tells affiliate KOIN that the suspect's a woman who used to work in that building. Security guards ended up catching her. By the way, this is the second office shooting this week in the Vancouver area. A debate over how the universe started dominated Twitter last night, even though it was...
If you got out of here, there are a lot of people who think you'd go start killing people again.
Again? Mm-hmm. Well, you guys are misinformed. I haven't killed anyone. Took me off Category J and took me off high violent potential. I go back to San Quentin. You need me for high violence so they can sell this thing to the public that they're selling to the public. Have more income taxes, build more prisons, and convict the public, creating more crime. We're creating the crime that eats us up. We're creating it with our media. We're creating high violence with our media.
Gun murder trial. It continues later on this morning with jury selection right now. 100 potential jurors gathered inside the courthouse on Monday to fill out questionnaires for the attorneys to determine what they know already about the trial.
And gathered outside of the courthouse were supporters of the Davis family. Don Lopez is here now breaking down this local trial gaining national attention. Well, Linz, it's hard for many not to compare this case to the in the case of the shooting death of 17-year-old Jordan Davis on Black Friday of 2012, which came on the heels of another high-profile case here in Florida, the shooting of 17-year-old Trayvon Martin. Well, now some local activists say Michael Dunn's murder trial may increase the intensity of racial issues here in Jacksonville.
We're creating high violence with our media.
Helter-skelter is what? Race war? How long has there been a race war? How long have we been in race wars? English? How long have we been at war with races? Since we come out of the caves and you didn't like Irishmen? It's been a race war. All my life I've been in the middle of a race war.
Why don't you tell the public what's really going on? Why don't you tell them the water's so bad the fish can't live in it?
They're dead, they smell, and one local community had to share their beaches with them. Thousands of fish washed ashore on Pawleys Island today, prompting many of you to come to us to get answers. WMPF News reporter Ken Baker has new details about what may have caused this.
Now, when you go to the beach, this isn't what you expect to find. Take a look at this. Hundreds of dead fish covering the shore, and this is exactly what people in Pawleys Island woke up to this morning.
Came down to look for shells and all these fish dead. It's like really weird. Like, I don't know what the cause is.
That's exactly how many people who live on Pawleys Island felt as they looked at the shoreline. Hundreds of dead menhaden fish stretching a mile and a half long.
What do officials think killed all these fish?
Well, Seth, officials from the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission and the Grand Island Parks and Recreation Department say that low oxygen levels in the water were to blame for the die-off. And while they say this isn't an uncommon occurrence, it's a first.
Why don't you tell them that the polar caps are melting because you're creating so much heat with this machine? You see what I'm saying? Why don't you tell them the truth? That we were going to blow the world up in the 60s, but a handful of kids jumped up and said no. The United States is owned by foreign corporations. The United States is owned by foreign corporations. Nixon opened it up for foreign trade. And when Nixon opened up for foreign trade, the people of Europe and the common market in Spain and different places, they don't care about the United States.
Ed, do we know yet what may have caused this explosion? We do not know the cause yet, Don, and that is something that investigators will begin the process of doing and working on. Much of today has been spent trying to make sure that all of the 600 employees that were inside the plant when the explosion happened were safe and secure. We have one dramatic picture from inside the plant that someone passed along to us, and it shows, that ball of flame, the plumes of smoke going up into the air, and workers racing away from the scene to get to safety. So frightening moments inside that plant, obviously, when this explosion occurred. But as you mentioned, almost 75 people injured in this blast. There are 3 people that are still in critical condition, and a young man, 29 years old, was killed. The explosion happened just beyond that tree line you see behind me, and for most of the day, authorities here had asked many people to stay indoors as they were trying to assess the air quality around this plant to make sure that there were no problems with breathing and asking people to stay indoors to make sure everyone was safe. So Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal says that although today has been mostly about making sure that people were safe, getting them to safety, now the work of trying to figure out what caused this explosion and who, if anyone, should be held responsible, that work begins now.
Obviously, when you've got the potential for loss of life, everybody's focus is on securing lives not only on site but the surrounding communities as well. Absolutely, once the investigations are done, once there's a responsible party, they will absolutely be held responsible, and we'll absolutely make sure we're working again with our local and federal partners that something like this doesn't happen again.
We do not expect harmful levels of radiation to reach the United States, whether it's the West Coast, Hawaii, Alaska, or U.S. territories in the Pacific. Let me repeat that. We do not expect harmful levels of radiation to reach the West Coast, Hawaii, Alaska, or U.S. territories in the Pacific.
You can't handle the truth.
Kevin Blanch. Have we got Kevin Blanch on?
Yeah, I think so. Nice.
How's it going there, big guy? I heard the show this morning. Yeah, Kevin. Is Kevin there?
Are you talking to me? This is Fred. It's not Kevin.
Oh, we got Fred on. Nice, nice. How you doing, Fred?
I'm doing fine. Actually, I'm doing the dishes. How about that?
I can hear the water going. That's a riot.
When you live by yourself, you got to do what you got to do when you got to do it.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it gets done easier, actually, sometimes.
You live in a climate where you very rarely get anything weight on the ground, huh?
No, you're right. You're right.
Yeah. I have about.
But as you can hear in those Pressing the Issue clips where they went over, I mean, they were talking about, you know, the water supply, you know, being disrupted so far still in West Virginia.
Yeah. Hey,
you know, that's pretty crazy, right? You know, kind of sounds like a conspiracy to me.
Yeah.
You know, I don't care what anybody says.
Wasn't that Charlie Manson I heard in there, too?
You heard some Charles Manson in there predicting a little bit of the future. Kind of letting you know what's going on the inside.
Yeah, crazy. It's pretty sad when Charlie Manson's right.
Yeah, it's pretty sad when Charles Manson, a crazy person, makes more sense than a sane person.
There were lots of crazy people who were right.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I know. We're one of them.
Yeah, but what I was going to say is a lot of these people, their solutions may not have been the right solutions, obviously.
No, you're right.
But,
no.
You know, where they were coming from, they, you know, call it because they were crazy, and maybe that's why they say, you know, everybody that believes in conspiracies wears tinfoil hats and all, but, you know, there is a certain level of awareness that these people may have that we're ignoring because we're listening to the din. All we're hearing is the noise. We're not hearing what's really going on, you know?
Well, I mean, that's why I try to bring this show to an enlightenment step by step. See, a lot of people, you know, like I listen to a lot of shows, a lot, actually, and I got my favorites. And the thing is that I understand what they're saying, but I think about the people that don't even get the first step of the first sentence that came out of their mouth to the next sentence, to the next paragraph, to the next thought, to the next everything.
Well,
so I try to create a show of foundations of one principal topic leading down that road. You know what I'm saying?
The clips that you played earlier, okay, and they're very much in line with the posts that I've been doing on my blog recently. In fact, the last one I did one today. The truth will set you free. In which, in fact, I point to a lot of the stuff that was in that consent of the governed, and that is the key. That is what people don't understand, because they've been indoctrinated. You hit on it earlier when you said that.
I had the same argument. Keep going.
Well, the idea of that the next generation is conditioned. Each generation is conditioned through the indoctrination process of education and the politics that they get from higher education and colleges. Colleges are subsidized. They're subsidized with taxpayer money.
It's just a company, and you're there as a number to collect money, to get in debt, to go get some useless piece of paper that you can wipe your ass with to say, I know something. And then when you get in the field, you're going to realize you got to start off just like everybody else, the bottom. And so
in the corporate world, okay, in the corporate world, everything is dealt with in transactions.
Yep. In pledges. Don't forget pledges.
For products and services, whether it's utilities, which is a service, but you're delivering it all
boils down to money.
Okay? So all these things are a matter of transactions and such. And we're treated that way. We're treated as a transaction. Okay,
you ain't
born, and they assign a value to you from the time you were born. You know,
from the moment you were born, you're plugged into this system with a number, and you are made into a corporate individual. You no longer are a person. You don't apply to rights.
No. Forget that person. You're no longer considered.
You're an artificial person.
You're no longer
let's talk about the language of law and the language of society. So in the language of law...
Which law are you talking about?
Okay, in the amendment of the Constitution that we have today, we basically are subservient slaves. We are in the 13th Amendment. So by us establishing a birth certificate and a Social Security number and then eventually an ID, these are so-called benefits to a society that we live in today. So in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is that by consent of this and giving into it, we have basically created this society of slaves, corporate people. When you get your birth certificate turned in and it comes back in all capital letters, you're now Mr. So-and-so. Therefore, you're the corporate body member of this corporation called America.
You remember the Wizard of Oz?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
I love how you bring that up too, because I compare that to everything.
In the book, not in the show, in the film, but in the book, Dorothy had silver slippers, and the reason she had silver slippers is because we all know the old saying about he who the golden rule is really he who owns the gold makes the rules. Which is essentially correct, because gold is a commodity just like silver and copper and anything else, salt or sugar.
Trade and barter.
Huh?
Trade and barter.
Well, it is, but the bankers...
Actually, hold on 1 second. Before you keep going, I have an individual who's a friend of mine, and he started the Barter Plus Friends, okay, on Facebook. It's a page, and totally get into it. We need to get back into this system of trading and bartering because money has become like the social god of our lives. It's the reason we get dressed.
No, not money. Not money. It's not. See, there's a difference between money that belongs to the people and money that belongs to the bank. Because the money that belongs to the bank is what we have today. They're called notes. They're promissory notes. They're instruments of debt. They have no value except the value that the Federal Reserve says its value is. And they'll give you all of these. They'll give you all of these, complex economic indicators and the price of this, that, and the other thing, and the stock market in Japan, and it means nothing. They determine in secret how much money they're going to circulate, which will inflate the amount of currency and deflate the value of the dollar. But the money itself is based in debt. It's not based in gold. It's not based in silver. It's not based in the worth of what we produce. It's based on us.
Yes, it's what we consent to.
Yep.
You
know, but they fooled us. That's what I'm saying. It is by consent. Everything that a corporation does is done by applications, by licenses, by writs, by legalese. It's all legal stuff. It's done by statutes and codes. Where in America, prior to, say, 1871, did we have statutes and codes? We didn't have any.
Exactly. You know what? Now that you go into that, let's go into clip 3 real quick, and then when we come out of that, we'll go ahead and talk about all these principles right here. Danny, let's go into clip 3, and we'll hear what everybody and where this is really leading to, so that people and I and everybody that's listening can get a conviction behind all that we're saying today. If you could, please.
The heart of the grand deception, keeping us mired in the world of money, is keeping from us all the fact that almost every country operates with the artificial and natural person merged together as one. That means humans are being given the rights of corporations, i.e., no human rights, and artificial corporate persons are being given the rights and privileges of natural persons, more and more so.
What I've learned, though, is that authority is based 100% on our consent to being governed. And I found a Supreme Court ruling that says that the consent of the governed is a foundational principle of democracy. What's consent? We all have free will choice to consent to being governed. When we do that, we've given them permission to use their authority over us. When we use our free will to apply for or register for something, we gave them permission to create a corporation to interact between the man and the system. And it's that corporation that the system acts upon. But because we don't know who we are, we assume or we think that that is us. So when you take a look at your credit card or take a look at your driver's license or your birth certificate or any of that kind of stuff, a lot of people, and including myself, thought that that was actually me. And that's not true. So when the courts are acting upon it, all they can really act upon is the corporation. And the only reason they can act upon the man is because we agree to be the representative of that corporation and bind ourselves to the terms and conditions of that agreement.
This is what they don't want you to know. You can actually just say no to them. When we were kids, when you were a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old child, you had what it takes to say, no, you are not the boss of me. But somewhere in high school, we've lost it so that now we're just, oh, everyone's the boss of me. The court, the government, every police officer.
I think they did it when they got everyone to become a government employee. And then this way, where normally they would be our servants, and we would be in charge of them, they tricked us all into getting social insurance numbers. These numbers identify us as a government employee. We're receiving benefits, as they call them, and therefore we are bound by the rules that bind all government employees.
You are all sinners. You have a social insurance number. Do you know what that means? They have ruled. They identify it. When you go in there, they call that social insurance number an employee identification number. The fact is, your social insurance number means you are all government agents. When I hear you complaining about the government, I don't hear citizens complaining about their lawful government. I hear employees bitching about their employer. All of these rules that they use, the Income Tax Act, that's why you have to pay income tax. If you go to a temporary job placement agency, they will set you up with a job, but now you have to pay them a portion of what you earn. Why? Because you were working as an agent for them. That's why you have to pay income tax to the federal government. You are working as a federal agent under a contract for service instead of a free man under a contract for hire.
The policeman on the corner is a good symbol for law. Like the policeman, law directs us in doing the right things to live together in harmony. And law forbids us from doing the wrong things that tend to destroy that social harmony. But law is more than the policeman on the corner, more than the courthouse where our laws are enforced, more than the jail where lawbreakers are punished. Law is one of three forms of social control: custom, what we usually do; moral code, what we should do; and law, what we must do.
What is the law? What laws apply to every single man on this earth? Because they often say no man is above the law. Okay, so which law are they talking about then?
In this little game that they've got us playing, there is a hierarchy to law. If you look on the right-hand side, natural law is the epitome. That's the top. Your rights and duties to your family essentially boils down to the natural law. It's all about love. The natural law, what law is all about, it's all about fundamentally love. Below that, you will have commercial law. Let's suppose in this forest, there's now not just you with your family, there's another family, you live 100 miles away. Once a month, you want to trade some of your berries for his fish. The commercial law now will deal with your transactions. And these commercial law has to do with trust. You need to be able to trust the people you're engaging in commercial actions with. Below that, you have a common law. The common law, imagine for a moment in this forest where before you only had 2 people, now you got hundreds and thousands of families living here. You need a certain system, a certain structure that's going to allow all of these people the protection that commercial law will afford them. It boils down to compassion, and it boils down to the Magna Carta, which essentially said that the government within this structure are bound by their own rules.
Everybody's familiar with Robin Hood. King John, the tyrant, was actually real. He ran to the Pope in 1213 and asked Pope Innocent III for some help. And what he did is he actually turned over the whole Kingdom of England to the Pope in return for support from the Pope so that he could fight his wars. So that little document essentially turned King John into the Pope's vassal, which means that he promised to be loyal to the Pope, and the Pope then owned everything in England. A couple years later, his barons, cornered him and, stuck a knife to him and said, you know what, we're not happy with the way you're treating us. We want you to sign this Magna Carta.
So the Magna Carta was the basis of English law.
That's right, Jet. And the basis of American law as well. The English Magna Carta became the model for the American Bill of Rights.
This is the founding document for our human rights within our country, within Great Britain, within the United States, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, any crown colony, their legal systems are based on this document.
All of this side of the hierarchy of law, this all deals with your body as a human being. It has to do with your rights and your responsibilities and your duties as a human being in a common law jurisdiction. On the other side, you have statutes, you have regulations, bylaws, and orders. They don't act on your body at all. They only act upon your person. They only act in equity. And here's the thing. People who exist in equity and act in equity cannot exit equity. Grab something that's existing only in law, drag it into it, and then try affecting it. Equity is a bitch, as they say, and you can only enter into it voluntarily. No one can ever force you. That's why they're using applications, registrations, and submissions in your signature.
A common misconception among people is that any rule or regulation that governs them falls under one category, law. But there are many other forms of law that people abide by without realizing that they simply do not apply to them. One of the predominant beliefs in modern culture is that licenses, permits, registrations, and other forms of documentation are required to operate motor vehicles, use public roads, build structures and establishments, engage in free enterprise, and much more. Sadly, these beliefs are based on little to no investigation whatsoever and are false. Driver's licenses, vehicle registrations, auto insurance forms, building permits, gun permits, work permits, tax filing documents, birth and death certificates, traffic citations, and many other forms of documentation that were once believed to be absolutely necessary only apply to persons.
The corporate employees must get a man or a woman to represent the person before a contract can be formed. That's absolutely true. They will ask you your name, they'll ask you your address. When they get your address, they've got joinder. Because there could be 100,000 John Harrises in England. They need that address to get joinder so they can prove who you are. The second you do that, the human being has said, yes, I'm the person. So when we look at the word statute, and I like this one, a legislative rule of society given the force of law by the consent of the governed. And I ask you, please, if you could explain to me where in that definition taken from Black's Law Dictionary that says that statute is law. It's given the force of law, which means it will apply to you if you consent. It's given the force of law, which means it will apply to you if you consent. It will apply to you if you consent. So what happens when you don't agree? It isn't law.
They get you thinking that these statutes are laws. Statutes are not laws. If you look it up, you'll find that the definition of a statute is a legislated rule of society given the force of law. It's a law, it's a rule that has the force of law within a structured society because somebody gave it that force. Remember, we're all equal here. Who can give those words the force of law? Only you. You have decided to give those statutes the force of law within your societal structure. A society, if you look at the definition of that, it's a number of people joined by mutual consent to deliberate, determine, and act for a common goal. Your consent is required for any statute to have the force of law, and you can spot these. They'll have the word act right in the title. Point out the word act to any government agent asking or claiming authority over you. Say, what exactly does that word right there mean? And you will be 2 steps away from consent. Your silence and inaction will raise the appearance of consent. Consent can be achieved when you do nothing.
Consent can be achieved when you do nothing.
A policeman, a human being, his duty under common law of this land is to serve and protect every individual in this land. You've heard Albert say this today. That is his duty. That is what he does his job for, to serve and protect and never, ever delay right or justice to any individual in this land. That's their job. They must uphold the common law. That's their job. They must uphold the common law. But they have a fiction attached to them called a police officer. Now, if you look at the word officer, it comes from the corporate world. What's a CEO?
What's a CEO?
This man on my right is who enforces statutes on you. This man protects you. But the trouble is, the boys in blue, who I have all the admiration in the world for, because I've got a lot of friends in the police force, don't know the difference. Don't know the difference. They don't know the difference anymore. And some of them didn't know the difference in the first place, because they're being told wrong.
They're being told wrong.
Some of the things that I do when I'm talking with a cop, first of all, I never give them, if they ask for my name, I say, well, legal or lawful, I want to know. I don't have a legal one. You ask them, under what authority are you acting? If they try saying, I'm a cop, so what? Under what authority are you acting? If they try saying it's against the law, and I've had them do that before, oh, it's against the law. What law? The Controlled Drugs and Substance Act. That's an act and a statute, not a law. Are you aware gross negligence is equal to fraud? They hate that. These people have a duty to understand and to distinguish between statute and law. They've been dealing with us for so long with people who are essentially ignorant that we don't even distinguish between statute and law, so they assume that you are going to be there. They'll say, oh, you broke a statute, you broke a law, I want to give you a ticket. And then they'll say, I need to see your ID, and if you don't show me ID, I'm going to arrest you for obstruction of justice. I've had cops do this to me, SkyTrain cops. The fact is, though, until they see ID, they have absolutely no evidence of the existence of a person who is liable under the statute. So they're putting the cart before the horse. They're saying, I see a human being. The act says person must produce a proof of fare. You're a person. I'm giving you a ticket. Now you have to show me your ID so I can give you a ticket, because they've been told if you don't see ID, you can't give a ticket. Ask them flat out, is this a transaction of a security interest? If he says, I don't know, then you say, well, clearly it can't be. You cannot engage in a transaction of a security interest in ignorance. So you say, okay, fine, so this isn't a transaction of a security interest. If it is, you need knowledge thereof. Since it's not a transaction of a security interest, you will not be generating any obligation upon me to pay or perform, so why am I talking to you? Have a good day. If they say, yes, it is a transaction of a security interest, you need my consent for that, and I do not consent to your transaction of a security interest. If they try enforcing statutory obligations or restraints upon you, ask them. They'll say, oh, well, let me see your ID. Well, what evidence do you have at this point right now that you are actually dealing with a person who is subject to that act? Until they see the ID, they don't know. And I've heard stories. There was a guy who, he had his card, he got stopped, he had a driver's license. The cops are there and they're asking him, do you have a driver's license? And he's playing with them, and, you know, I'm not producing that. I don't know why you stopped me, nah, nah, nah. Cops are totally nice to him. He's about to get, he says, you know, I was this far to getting out of there. They were just going to give up, and then finally the cop asked me one last time, you sure you don't want to just show me your ID? I mean, it makes us, okay, fine. As the moment they saw it, right out the window. They dragged him right out the window. They put the cuffs on him, took him away. He was this close. But once they saw that there was a person they could act upon, they acted, and they will act very, very quickly. I mean, there are some things you can't say to the cops. If they come and they ask you for driver's license, right, or if they say, do you know why I stopped you? It's usually not a good idea to say something like, because you're a power-hungry, tax-collecting tool of the state bully with a badge and a gun, and by stopping me, you get to exercise your powers, propping up your own frail ego, allowing you to believe for a short period of time you're not half the loser you really are. You don't say stuff like that. It's not going to help you. That's not the truth. These cops, for the most part, these are decent human beings who are trying and who would come and risk their life for you. They could give you a ticket and argue with you about the law 1 minute. 5 minutes later, they could be pulling you out of a burning wreck, and they would put their life on the line. In a free and just society, na-na-na-na-na, this might be acceptable, na-na-na-na-na. Ask yourself this. What's the name of your society? Do you have one? Now, if you can't even tell me the name of your society and you know a statute is a legislated rule of a society which has been given the force of law, and you don't have a society, why do these acts have any force of law over you? Believe it or not, all of these statutes, they are a legislated rule of a particular society which have been given the force of law, but that's the law society. All of these rules are the rules for the law society, and you can prove it. Only they can make the statutes, the regulations, or the orders. You are not allowed to pen these. If you go into court, they claim that only they may use these documents or these words. Only they can claim complete understanding of these words. Unless you're a member of that society, you cannot understand these words. Why? Because societies have a number of powers. As a society, you can generate and create your own rules, and no one who is not a member of that society is going to have a say in creating those rules. You can claim that no one but a member of that society can understand those rules because you can actually create your own language as a society if you want. And you can do this by taking an existing language, let's call it English, and you can change just a few words, not tell anyone else how those words have been changed, and guess what? You've got an entirely new language that appears to be English, but it's not, and only they know it.
Legalese is such a language. In English, it is English, but some words have very, very different meanings. Example, legalese is the language of the law society. Check it out for yourself.
So you heard right there, legalese is the name of your society.
Yep.
Legalese. That means that this society is the law society. That's why they say it's legal or illegal. Because it's the legalese society.
Now do you understand?
I absolutely understand. I'm blown away. I'm ready to cut up all my IDs and everything, write to these people and say, I do not consent. I don't get benefits. I've never benefited from your legalese society. I'm not a product of this corporation. And I suggest anybody that is listening to this show, and if you've been as moved as I have from this enlightenment, I'm sure you will feel the same.
Well, what I was going to say is, now you can understand why the original 13th Amendment to the Constitution was hidden. And has been hidden.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, don't you remember? And I think it was in the very first clip that you played when they said they were talking about the 13th Amendment, the original 13th Amendment.
That's right.
In the organic Constitution. And the original 13th Amendment to the Constitution was called the Title of Nobility Amendment, in which it took
nobody can go in there.
Huh?
Go in there. Keep going.
It took the clause that said that no person who holds a title of nobility can hold a public office, and it extended it to any person, or that is any American who claims a title of nobility from another nation, from a foreign land, would lose
and we got
their
attorney generals.
Well, George W. Bush was knighted.
Really?
Oh,
every lawyer has a title if they're a member of the Association of Barristers or the Bar Association.
Man, I didn't know that.
They carry the title of Esquire.
I want to throw something out there before I forget it. In the old Constitution, it says this right here. It says that no man can be taxed by your government if you're not an agent or employee of the government. So I always sat back and was wondering, I was like, how the hell does this apply to me then? Because I don't work for no freaking government, you know what I'm saying? Guess what? You do. And so don't I.
Well,
and we as people...
That was FDR. That was FDR.
That's right.
And you'll be arrested and punished if you don't have these forms of identification.
Yep, because you're a part of that legalese society. So now you're a corporate administrator of this corporation, okay?
Well, how do you get away from it?
You know, I'm going to go back. So check this out. This is the part. Maybe you can answer this for me, Fred, because I found this to be pretty enlightening. So when you sit there and look at a corporation itself, right, you have your owners, okay? So let's go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead through my notes real quick because this... Hold on, let's go ahead and go right down to where it had said, you know, okay, so you got so you got the owner, the directors, then the president, that would represent our president, then the general managers, then you got the production managers and the controller. Then this is where I believe police come in, which is the sales manager, which is the guy selling the laws to the police. And then you got your district and local sales managers, which your police is selling you the laws and fines and fees. You see all the trickle-down effect?
Here's the thing. The entire structure of criminal justice, whether it be the city police department today or the state police department or the federal U.S. Marshal's office or the FBI, they all have been empowered by statute to make arrests, to enforce statutes.
Like the NDAA Act? Like the National Defense Authorization Act?
Well, no, the NDAA, and if you really want to go back that far, you can go back to Rex 84 and Ronald Reagan, and it was called the Continuity of Government, and there's another word for it too. But basically, it was keeping the government intact, okay, and all of these powers, like the Patriot Act and NDAA and NDRP or executive orders and such, were all designed around the idea that at some point in time, it may be necessary for the federal government to control everything: transportation, food, utilities, energy, everything, including your vehicle.
Through consent.
Okay? Huh?
Through consent.
You already consented.
Yeah, by nobody standing up, nobody speaking out, nobody saying that this is not right.
You're not even allowed to do that.
Well, lots of people are standing up and saying it's not right. But most people who are screaming today are screaming for the wrong reasons.
Well, that's the whole idea.
You're right.
They think they can fix government simply by electing people who will do a better job.
But they're all groomed into the same format.
Well, I mean, in theory, that is totally possible, but in act, it just doesn't happen like that.
Well,
money talks, and the rest of it just doesn't.
You know what else talks? You know what else talks for the people, though? Ignorance. See, when your silence comes in and you don't stand up, you leave it to the people that you elect ignorantly to these facts, and then you're just a sheep in a pen getting ready to get to your slaughter.
You know
Yeah.
what an example of heroism is? The kid that stood in front of the Chinese tank in Tiananmen Square and said, "No, you can't do this to me. I'm a human being. I am an individual human being, and I have rights." Did they take his rights? They took his life. But here's the thing.
Yeah. Hitler would have just run right over him.
That. See, I remember that. That inspired me. That one courageous act in defiance of spilling his blood in defiance against that kind of tyranny inspired me to keep going on and keep doing what I'm doing.
Yes.
And
patriotism, rebellion. Look at your kids.
You said it earlier. You know, the majority are sheeple. They're asleep. They've been indoctrinated. It's about 3% of the population who actually make things happen. Margaret Mead said, "Don't ever think that a small group of men can't make changes, because that's what always is. That's what makes change.
That's what always did, exactly.
Okay?
So anybody who's listening, you don't worry, because you right now talking to your friends and spreading the word and waking people up, you may be looked at as crazy or like you care too much or you carry the weight of the world on your shoulders, but you know what? You're standing up for their future too. And they may not be concerned. They may want to go back to drinking their life to oblivion, snorting pills, mowing lawns, driving whatever, doing the workforce system, because that's what they do. And it's people like us that actually make the difference. So give yourself a pat on the back if you ever feel down and like you're, not getting the inspiration that you deserve. You're not getting the credit.
Every once in a while, we all do. You get a little frustrated. You talk to people and they have such a narrow focus of what they see. And I used to think, what a bunch of idiots. These people are dummies. They're stupid. They're crazy. And then I realized they only see what they see because their lives have been conditioned. They have been indoctrinated into seeing, these little sound bites on MSNBC and CNN, and Diane Sawyer gets up there and says, "Ain't it a shame?" I
honestly believe, Fred, that most people don't even watch the news these days. I honestly believe that people...
there's millions and millions of people watching the news.
Off the internet than I get off of TV. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I think...
I got cable TV because the internet bundle was cheaper than getting one or the other. So I watched some sports. I watched some National Geographic or Discovery or what's the other one? History Channel.
How many other people are watching that, though? Let's think of all the 19-year-olds going to clubs or all the 21-year-olds.
But, these are things, for what I do, I gather a lot of stuff off the net. I go to, I might even pick up a story from Al Jazeera in Egypt, which I just picked up a story from an Egyptian site, which I've just incorporated into another article, but that hasn't been written yet. But the one I just did, where I said, here it is. I even took pieces of Consent of the Governed, and I didn't take pieces. I put the video in. Here, watch the whole 3 hours. Listen to it. Take it home with your friends, your family. Watch it instead of watching, Shrek, or Iron Man. Watch this with the kids.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I do. I watch this stuff with my kids. I sit them down. I show them the truth, and then they can decipher as they get older. They keep asking the same questions, but it doesn't matter. Eventually, they'll get it.
Well, it's like...
Hey, we got Kevin on? Hold on a second. I believe... Did we have Kevin in the room, or did he leave?
I'm here.
Oh, you're the man.
How you doing?
What? I didn't even know. I never got a win.
I've been listening to you guys' discussion. Very nice. I really liked it.
Thanks, brother. I tell you, man, why don't you jump in and give us a little bit of insight?
Yeah, I don't consent to cancer, by the way. Does that mean I don't have it? Hey, the Fukushima update, I think it's important, and I want to just real briefly update people, is the CDC, the World Health Organization, all these different organizations are starting to come out now and prep everybody. They're starting to talk about the cancer pandemic. And they're starting to come forward. So the World Health Organization issued a statement a couple days ago, saying we have a cancer pandemic and basically blamed it all on us. We're lazy, we're stupid, we're fat, we don't eat right, what they basically said. But they didn't want to,
but they're feeding us, right?
And
Keep going, I'm listening.
Yeah, it's our fault, but we consented to cancer. We consented to not shut these.
We consented to it. I know, right? Oh, my God. This is bullshit. Keep going. I'm listening.
So, anyway, that's the big thing is there's no answers at Fukushima, and it's ongoing, and you can start to see how the playbook's going to start to come out. What's going to happen, I don't know, but they're starting to talk about the cancer epidemic. Well, I call it an epidemic, which is happening now, but they're calling it a pandemic.
They're calling it a pandemic? No, man, there's fish dying everywhere. All those clips you guys heard were all recent and pressing the issue. You hear fish dying everywhere. We know what's up. If you're listening, I'm sure you got a brain and 2 brain cells. You could tell that radiation is obviously the cause. I'm still listening.
Well, so that's here. So now they're talking about it, and they're calling it a pandemic, a cancer pandemic. And their numbers they're releasing, which are diluted down numbers. Remember, this is the World Health Organization, who is the nuclear industry, could take a grain of salt with their numbers because these are the people that tell you that Chernobyl killed 4,000 people when we know factually it's killed north of 40 million and counting. And so, so their numbers,
that's scary stuff.
God, you look at 300% increase they're talking in the next decade, 2 decades, in which we already have huge numbers. So for them to say that, it's just basically saying, hey, here, everybody on the face of Earth, get ready, you're going to get cancer. And so it's pretty.
So you think it's done on purpose? You think this is done on purpose,
man?
No,
I don't think it's done on purpose. I mean, as far as Fukushima per se itself, or
why they're not cleaning it up? Why it's continuing every fucking day?
Well,
I want to know. What do you think?
And I think they tried to protect the nuclear industry by not entombing it and using their so-called science and their cold fusion, and it didn't work. And I think now they don't have an answer. I think even they're like, what the hell?
Scratching their head.
Is it done on purpose? I don't know, but the bottom line is...
they need to set Megan Rice free, because if they're scratching their head and they don't know what the F is going on, I'm sure that, they should let her go for being an American.
Oh, you mean Megan Rice?
Yeah, that's who I mean, Megan Rice.
Oh,
that's who I said.
Yeah, Pussy Riot's here in the United States. By the way, I think I might be doing an interview with Naughty Ann Maria tomorrow. And, I've been working with them off and on. And, they're environmental activists.
Hook me up with the link so I can watch.
Yeah, I hope it goes down. I'm working on it right now. But anyway, the Megan Rice story's starting to explode around the world. And so the Senate scene is the 18th of February in Knoxville. As you know, I was in Tennessee for the Senate scene on the 28th. It was bizarro. That storm hit. The judge, I was in the courtroom the whole time. It was incredible. It was powerful in there. And they cut it off, because he called it a snow day, but I think it's because he wanted more time to juggle these Senate scenes around. But it's going to be a big event. It's February 18th in Knoxville, and they're going to Senate her and Greg and Michael, for a peaceful protest. They're trying to protect us. And it needs to be said that Oak Ridge, Tennessee, the non-proliferation contract that was signed by us, they are the ones that are breaking the law at Oak Ridge, Tennessee. That's where they make the nuclear weapons. We signed the contract.
All corporations are under the same. All corporations are under the same principles as laws, as the government that binds us to them as well. So they're held just as accountable as you are, and that's why they're hiding.
They signed those international treaties. You know, they were signed in the Reagan administration, the non-proliferation contract, which said, in good faith, we will break down our arsenal of nuclear weapons, which we have not done. Yeah, they'll say we went from 700 to 500, but what they did, they backdoored it by making the 500 1,000 times stronger. So we actually have thousands of times more nuclear power bombs than we did when we signed it. So we are violating. So we're held by one law, they're held by another. So here's Megan Rice, 84, calling them attention, say, hey, you're breaking the law. I want to make a citizen's arrest on you. Peaceful protests, you know. No guardianship out there. And they arrested an 84-year-old nun, the protege of Dorothy Day, the greatest human rights activist in the country. She's been with no due process. She's been sitting in a jail cell for how long now? 8, 9 months.
Yeah, I know, man. They need to get her out. People need to stand up. If you're in there, man, start speaking up for yourself. Unplug from this matrix.
She needs to be set free now, today.
Exactly, man. Start paying attention to what's going on and what's behind the actual media, because there's really shit going on that concerns everybody in their detrimental future. You know, if they're going to arrest her for speaking the truth, you think you're not next? Hey, we're at 8:55, and we're going to go ahead and basically tell everybody, thanks, Kevin, man. You're awesome, brother. Thank you for coming on and giving us the update.
That was a good discussion. I love listening to you guys. It was very intellectual. It was very, I really liked it. You guys did a really good job on it as far as the whole treaty lead-up to all that. I thought it was great. Good job.
You're the man, brother. Seriously, man. And I love your show, too, Post-Ignorance, 8 a.m. on Pacific Standard Time on the West Coast, and 11 a.m. on Eastern Standard Time. And basically, man, thank you so much. And Fred Marsico, man, you're the man, brother, for your enlightenment on what stands and unveiling the truth. Crowley, man, I love you, brother. And D.P., I want to send out a thanks to you, man, for coming on and sharing your music with us and your story to influence and enlighten people, and hopefully they grasp the music and they love it. Denny, DTM Wicked Radio, check us out. Tiffany, we love you guys. And this song coming up is called Big Time off the new album, While We're Still Young by D.P. Country hip-hop. Love this stuff. Check it out. Here it is right here, Big Time. Thank you, guys.
Take care.
Love ya.
They say I'm big time, you made it big time. But I'm broke as a joke, I got nowhere to go. Only friend that I know is a bottle of whiskey. When I hit the road, got nobody to miss me. I'm big time, they say I'm big time. When they all know your name, they just look at you strange. Like I'm mad to be crazy, I might be insane. But I'm not gonna break, no I'm not gonna change. I ain't big time. Now I'm just like you. See, I go through the same bullshit that you go through. And for real, I ride solo, I need no crew. Just one dude, they all looking like what he gon' do. They be like, man, you got it made. I'm like, man, I got a mess. They thinking mountains of that money, talking mountains of the debt. Videos and photo shoots will never show what's real. And interviews ain't never paid my bills. For real. They say I'm big time, you made it big time. But I'm broke as a joke, I got nowhere to go. Only friend that I know is a bottle of whiskey. When I hit the road, got nobody to miss me. I'm big time, they say I'm big time. When they all know your name, they just look at you strange. Like I'm mad to be crazy, I might be insane. But I'm not gonna break, no I'm not gonna change. I ain't big time. And now I'm pop champagne, I'm still getting so low. So riding the night train and I'm still sleeping on that thrift store couch. Same clothes I wore the day before in this old house. I'm just pulling back the cushions, looking for nickels and dimes. Add it up and do the math to get some 305. Mama yelling, get a job, hold her, this my life. Like, hey, I'm big time, right?